Hello. Today we will discuss will sum up the discussion we had on housing policy matters, and we introduced the subject of housing planning. So far we have covered all the aspects of housing policy, its various dimension, how it acts in the market, and now we will go to the next part, the planning part of this of the housing. So, before we go to the next part, we will quickly summarize some of whatever we covered in last few lectures, and then we introduce the subject of planning. So, to start with, we started with the housing typology. We told you that primarily three categories of housing typologies are there: organic, formal and informal. The organic housings are basically grown over the year in the cities or the rural areas, old city house, urban village, traditional housing, private plotted house. The formal houses are basically formal houses which is delivered by the formal agencies, government and private, including rental housing and cooperative housing. And informal houses are the houses which is built illegally over the encroached land by the people, like slums and squatters, and also unauthorized construction. So, after discussion the housing typology, we visited the overall conditions of the situation of the housing situation in our country. So, we saw that we in our country around out of 10% in rural area, one is out of livable condition, and in urban area the situation is out of 6 household, one is not having the livable house. That is the condition. So, after this we also discussed the overall situation in terms of supply of housing and demand of housing. We saw that the economic group, the lower income group and economical weaker section, they have the highest demand in terms of housing, but the market supply is very less, only 4%, whereas the market supplies maximum for the MIG and HIG 85%, even if they have only 15% of the their total housing requirement. So, there is a discrepancy between the supply and demand, severe mismatch between the supply and demand, which we discussed. Then we revisited the housing programs so far we had in last 70 or so years, in starting from 50s to till 2010 or 10 or 15, we have seen that first few decades till 1980, the government's role was as provider to provide the housing directly to the people. Then next 2 decades the government's role was enabler. They enabled the private agencies and other agencies, so that also they can be partner. And now 2000 onwards, with the open market, the role of government is facilitator. They are facilitating the process of housing delivery in more numbers through the market and also through the government agencies, so that at the end of the day the people gets more number of housing. So, we ended up with the flagship program Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, which is right now is going on, and before that we had various programs including JNNURM and Rajiv Awas Yojana. So, we analyzed all these programs and we identified few major barriers which are creating the housing shortage, incremental housing shortage and non-fulfillment of the housing shortage, less number of supply. So, the first thing was housing affordability. Because of the poverty in the urban area, the lower income group, economically weaker section, the affordability is the major problem. Second is the speedier technology and system, because of the conventional technology which is slow in delivering the housing project in time. So, that is another major problem. The projects are not getting completed within their given time. Then land is also a major barrier. We are not getting a large chunk of land in our urban area, and because of that the mass housing is not possible, but last few decades, 1 or 2 decades, because of the various land reform and pro land policy of the government, now we are in a position that up to we have somewhat overcome this problem. Then also we need a robust policy framework, a holistic and a comprehensive policy framework to incorporate all the barriers, incorporate all the opportunities to take the current problem of the housing to a solution in the near future. So, policy framework also needs an institutional framework as well. The ecosystem required to generate new kind of building materials, friendly building materials, and making them available in vicinity of the project site is also required, which is a major barrier for the projects under the government intervention. And also labor is, I mean, availability of the skilled labor basically is a major problem for the programs or the interventions we had in India. So, after discussing identifying these major barriers, there are few other barriers, but these are the major barriers. We discussed that how a housing policy can be comprehensive, holistic to address each of the barrier, and like there are barriers like standards, norms and schedules. I mean, we have specific Indian standards for building construction and all those practices, but when we invite the new technology or the new materials, definitely we have to update the norms and standards, and we have to make the new standards and norms. That is what the requirement. So, based on the barriers, we discuss the housing policy. Now, a policy has different dimensions. What is a policy? So, we discussed various dimensions one by one. So, policy basically a overall goal or focus on a target group. A policy definitely will indicate the target group to which the policy is aimed to, and also it should have overall goal and focus. For example, the current policy, housing policy's main focus is to achieve housing for all by 2022, and this target group is basically the people who do not have the house, or in future who will lose their house, or who they do not have the possible people who need the house in future also. For housing, a subject like housing, land is very essential. We cannot make the housing project in sky. We have to have the land in our vicinity of the cities. So, a housing policy definitely should always indicate the land availability. Then finance, another resource required is finance. Most of the cases the finance is required from various sources, private, public, the NRI fund, the foreign direct investment. So, a policy document definitely definitely will indicate the finance availability and its mechanism. Then technology and supply side intervention should be also addressed in the policy. Current policy, housing policy adequately address this issue. Ensuring right of the excluded groups, we have told that economically weaker section and lower income group, even if they have major deficiencies in the housing, the market supply is very less. So, how a policy mechanism can address that issue, that is very important in the through the programs and the intervention. Providing legal and institutional framework for reform, providing time bound targets for the institutions and the organizations, so that they can achieve the overall target and the goal. So, these are the various policy we discussed, policy parameters or dimension. Now, coming to the land matters, there are four approach by which we can make the land available for the housing project. The first approach was land acquisition, where the government authority can acquire the land for the bigger projects, that we know using the Land Acquisition Act. Recently in 2013 and 14 we have amended the Land Acquisition Act, which was earlier very older act, but we have amended that act recently. Then second is the master plan based approach, which is not exactly acquiring the land, but to control the land by indicating, by prescribing the desired land use, the density and its various utilization factors, including the building controls and regulation. The second part is the land assembly based approach, where we do not acquire the land as such permanently, but we take the land from the people for some time, we assemble the land, we develop the land, and then some part of the land is given back to the people and some part of the land is utilized for the future development of the infrastructure and housing. So, that is the third approach. The fourth approach is the public private partnership models. Here neither we acquire land, neither we do master plan based approach, but within overall framework of master plan, some bigger land for a particular public purpose can be acquired by the private agency, and the private agency can work under the collaboration or under the partnership with the public agency, and that becomes the private public partnership model. So, that is called guided land development. So, this four approach is basically available right now, in which we can explore the better land available for the housing project. So, these are the reforms. Other than the land, the various reforms like 100% foreign direct investment, Urban Land Ceiling Act. The Land Ceiling Act was there till some years back. So, it basically resisted the land, bigger land holding under one ownership. So, that is now repealed, or that is why the bigger land is available in the cities. Reform in land acquisition, we had already amended the Land Acquisition Act. Then Real Estate Investment Fund and Trust and Developers Bill, we have recently made the Developers Bill to convert it to this bill to a act. So, right now this is the objective of this investment trust is to make the finance available from the investment of the people, and the objective of the Developers Act was to ensure the transparency and accountability of the people or the home buyer who are the end users in the whole housing planning and management process. And also reform is required in the property tax and stamp duty. The housing construction is not sufficient. After the construction, the transaction or the registration of the housing or the house unit in the name of the owner or the end user is very important, and on that ground how the benefit could be given to the economically weaker section and lower income group, that is the challenge. So, that is one reform all the state governments they are bringing in the land matters. Then on the financial matters, the interest subsidy is given through various schemes given by the government, and also we are facilitating private developers and joint ventures. After that, we also discuss the affordability as a subject. We discussed that affordability traditionally was approached from a income perspective. Always we calculate the affordability from the income level of the people or their family, but right now we are slowly going to a paradigm where the affordability is considered as a physical phenomena of a floor space, considering a people or a family that in the initial years when they are able to only have a very nominal house, very small house, and over the years when they get more earning, they can gradually go to the higher level of housing. So, the change is from a income based approach to a area based approach. Like in Government of India, they have provided 300 square feet for the economically weaker section and 300 to 600 for the LIG people. Similarly, for another state government, we showed it similar square feet or the income criteria, both were there, but right now most of the cases we are going through this paradigm, that is the income the floor area based approach. After that, we discussed the technology system. The essence of the technology system was that to go for a site to convert from a site built construction schedule to a modular construction schedule, where we minimize the site development and the building construction activity, which we transfer it to the building in a plant, and so that we can reduce the time saving, and more time save, the more the cost economy and more the effectiveness of the house, and not only that, we can achieve the quality better if we go for a balance between the on-site activity and the off-site activity. So, considering these technology systems, we have several options like say box option, panels option, or the frame option. Out of that, we discussed that frame option is the suitable option for Indian case. We showed the case study also, and in current program like Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, Yojana and technology submission, which is part of Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, they are focusing on that only. So, coming to the current government program, Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana has 4 components. The first component tells about the slum redevelopment. So, earlier we experimented various models of slum relocation, resettlement, and also various kinds of rehabilitation program, but right now we are encouraging the on-site slum redevelopment. Wherever is this slum is there, we can redevelop that. Then we discuss the affordable housing through credit linked subsidy. So, if a loan, housing loan is given to a person or a family, so a subsidy in the interest rate is given by the government up to amount of 6%. So, that will enable a person to get housing loan in a cheaper interest rate with more affordability situation. So, that is the second component of the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. The third component is the housing, affordable housing in partnership. This component was there in the regime of JNNURM also, but here the more focus is towards the economical weaker section and lower income group. If any private developer develops any project in partnership with the government, they will get the benefit out of that per unit of economical weaker section housing unit, they will get some amount from the government. So, that is the essence. And fourth is, if a poor family, poor people, they build their own house through their own labor, own finance, they also are eligible to get the benefit out of this Awas Yojana. So, main objective of this Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana is to housing for all, achieve housing for all by 2022. So, another very important part of the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana is the technology submission, which is basically a subset of the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. Its main aim is to bring technology for faster, greener and better quality of housing in India for the poor people and also in general. So, some technologies are there which are under development and some technologies are under experimentation, and involvement of technical institutions like IITs and NITs are there, and also industries, so that the technologies developed or experimented can will not fail actually in the ground for the people. So, that is the another part. And so far we have identified 16 technology by Government of India, Ministry of Housing. So, under the 16 technology, some of the technologies will be experimented, will be allowed, will be encouraged by the private developer and industrial units. In coming 2-3 years, you will be seeing in the market that various new technologies are coming. So, from a site based construction using brick, cement and all those conventional materials will soon go to a paradigm where alternative technology options will also be available along with the current conventional construction system. So, technology submission is a major change which was not there in the earlier any of the programs, any of the policy of the housing policy in India. So, having said that, so this is the overall sum up of the housing policy matters. So, basically the housing policy matter gives us the mandate, to provide housing for poor and all, the quality housing within their affordable limit, enhance their affordability through various mechanisms of subsidy, cross subsidy, direct availability of the loans and all those things, to encourage the new technology, to encourage the few other supply side interventions which will encourage the supply of the housing in better quality in the market by the private developer and government developer. So, here the government's role is to facilitate the technology, to facilitate the land, to facilitate the finance, so that the supply side and demand side both are enabled, both are working together in the market, and the benefit of that will go to the common poor people. Now, we come to the next part. Now, we have so far discussed the policy part. So, policy is basically broad guidelines which we have seen is a theoretical construct, theoretical framework of the broad guideline which is applicable for each and every states irrespective of the geographical variation, irrespective of the cultural variations. Now, how do we make this policy applicable for the local context. For example, how we can frame a housing project or housing strategy in a city like Bhopal or a city like Raipur, or whether it will be different than a housing strategy of a city like Raipur or a city like Dehradun. So, that is the question. So, how in the next stage we can incorporate the essence of planning after the policy. Now, policy is a basically broad framework. Okay. So, what does a policy do? Policy gives a overall umbrella, because India, a country like India is a very large country having so many geographical variations, so many cultural variations, so many economic variations. So, policy gives a umbrella of the holistic approach towards solving a problem. So, it gives a overall target, overall idea and overall broad guidelines, broad framework, but what it does not give is a specific prescription for a particular city or particular region. For example, if you want to make a city plan or a housing proposal for a particular city, the housing policy does not give that exact prescription. So, the city authority or the authority which is entitled or empowered to do that, they have to do the next level of the exercise, which we call at the planning. Sometimes we call it as the urban planning, or when we call urban or rural, and sometimes the planning which we call as a regional planning. Sometimes we call it as a state level or national level planning. But when we talk about a physical planning, geographical planning, basically these two are the options when we talk about the physical planning. Physical means whenever we are going to prescribe any specific intervention in any geographical piece of land or land cover. So, this is the next stage after the policy, which is basically a broad framework, the urban and the regional planning. But whether the planning is done only for housing or any other components are there. No, planning is done for all the parameters involving the human life. For example, transportation, accessibility, housing, the industrial development, the commercial development, the city level open spaces, and all the institutions and the health facilities. So, housing, the planning is done for all aspects of development. So, then it follows the next level of the planning exercise. We do a detailed exercise for housing, the transportation planning, the mobility aspect, the green aspect, everything. So, we make strategic document, or it can be called as a detailed sectoral plan. So, in this detailed sectoral plan or strategic document, we will detail out each piece of land, about its use, about its typology prescribed, and how we can achieve that. Both are considered, but before we go to that level, we have to touch upon the planning to understand its mechanism fully. So, planning, how the planning is done at the urban and regional level, considering the policy aspects. Now, there are lot of policies like housing policy, environmental policy, transport policy, lot of policies are there. So, in a planning, basically we combine all the policies. So, we reflect all the policies in the planning of a city or region, and then we detail out each strategy document one by one based on the policy parameter and the planning. So, what does a planning exercise or a strategic exercise offer? It offers a very specific prescription. So, the planning and the strategic exercise will offer a very specific prescription of a city or a village or a region. Prescription can be detailed out for the land matter, can be financial matter, can be institutional matter, can be the built environment matter, how the building will come up, what will be its height, what will be its total volume, what will be its typologies, what will be its use, what will be its composition, what will be its classification, how does it look like. So, the way we build a city, so each and everything will be prescribed in the planning and followed by the strategic document, which is not possible in the policy document, because policy document is a overall broad framework of all the states, all the cities, all the region in the country, irrespective of geographical variation, irrespective of cultural variation. So, taking this concept in our mind, let us see what are the major points in the planning which we will cover in the next few lectures. Like we discussed that framework of long, medium and short term roadmap of any specific geographic area. So, based on this discussion, the planning basically can be a long term like 20 to 25 years, it can be medium term 5 to 10 years, it can be very short term like 6 months, 1 year action plan, 1 year prescription for development of any geographical area, and it is contextual. It is contextual. Planning and strategy for any development is always contextual. The planning made for the plain land is never applicable for the hilly areas. The planning made for the hilly areas never be applicable for the coastal areas. So, these are different. Basically, planning is done after the policy. So, planning follows the policy mandates. Whatever the policy mandates or policy guidelines are there. So, planning cannot deviate that, planning has to follow that, but based on that definitely planning can diversify in few areas. In our country we have multi-level of planning exercise. For example, at the national level we have 5-year plan which is done by the government of India for the whole country, but which is not a geographical or a specific physical plan, which is basically a economic planning exercise where we basically allocate the resources as per the states or as per the projects, as per the sectors. Then we come to the state level. The same allocation is further distributed between across the district or the regions. Then we come to the regional level or the district level or the city level, which is basically physical planning exercise, and where we prescribe the land utilization, financial utilization and utilization of the human resource as well. And planning deals with the specific need of the future. For example, it deals with the specific need of the future population. We predict the population, we project the population based on the current trend, and then based on the future population we allocate the resource, we allocate the resource in terms of land, in terms of the building, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of money, in terms of the financial allocation, human resource, organizational discipline, everything. So, it is basically very specific and contextual both. Then planning is an exercise which involves technical inputs by a multidisciplinary team. Those who are attending this course, you might be an architect or planner or engineers or sociologist or any other professional, geographer or economist. So, planning is done at the city level or regional level in a team, so that everybody can give their input and come out with a robust and concrete prescription. And not only the technical input, it involves people's participation as well, because in the planning at the end of the day we are dealing the issues of the people. We are making a technical solution for the people, but the technical solution cannot be successful without getting the input from the people regarding their needs, regarding their issues, regarding their priorities, regarding their preferences. So, people's participation is very important at the planning level, whereas at the policy level we may not get the direct participation of the people, but at the planning level and the strategy document preparation level we take the technical input and the participation of the people as well. So, these are the few dimensions of the planning exercise. So, the next lecture we will discuss the whole planning paradigm, how we do planning at various levels with some example and case study, so that we can understand. Then we will go for the how we can make a strategy document for the housing for a city with a specific case study with some examples and some few exercises. So, today we discussed we summed up the discussion on the housing policy. We basically touched upon the matters like land, finance, affordability, the technology systems, and discussing all these parameters, we basically touched upon the overall objective of the housing policy, that is the housing for all, which the current program Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana already has taken that mandate for 2022, and under this program we have technology submission, whose main objective will be to deliver housing using new technology. And then we discussed today the various dimension of the planning. We differentiated planning than the policy by basically telling that policy is a broad framework, it is irrespective of any geographical location, it is a comprehensive document, covers every state, every geographical location, whereas the planning is basically contextual and basically very specific to the any geographical area. That is the major difference of the planning and the policy. So, in the next lecture we will discuss the various methodology of the planning, various dimensions of the planning in a greater details with a case study, so that we understand in a better way. So, for today, thank you.